Hello happy people, my name is Dan and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple menu screen using GML in GameMaker with just one object, which when done should look something like this. I think these menu screens are really useful, they're really great for game jam games, they're really good to just have a very simple, elegant, here's how all the menu options are, here's how everything plays out, and it's very simple to do. So I'm going to show you first of all the assets we need. First of all, we have our background, the background for the menu screen. In this case we're using 640 by 480 as the resolution, quite uncommon these days, but you can change it around. We also have the logo of the game, the famous My Awesome Game the Game. These are all centered, these are all middle center origin as well, which is quite useful to bear in mind when making these menu options. We also have the help screen. Now the help screen is just going to show up a bit of basic information, the controls, a bit of information, a bit of backstory. There's a pilot lost in green space. I don't know, I just made it up, but something like that. And then of course we have our menu buttons. These are 100 by 100 and they cycle through, so we've got different options there, and we're going to be using all of these today to make 5 menu options. So we've got play, help, sound, we've got on and off options, web because you want people to visit your website when you're playing a game, and of course the classic exit the game. Of course you can customize these and change these around, it's entirely up to you, but that's what we're going to be showing you how to make today. So first things first, we are going to need a new object, and we're going to call that object O menu control. I'm going to try to, if I can spell, O menu control. And then the first things first, we're going to be actually setting up the variables. So these are the variables we need when we're actually using the menu. So the first things first, we're going to do can cell, which means can select. And we're originally going to set that as false, and that's going to change later. M cell, the menu selection, we're going to put that on 0. So because GameMaker counts from 0 rather than from 1, we're going to remember that is 0 to begin with. And next we have logo S and logo T. We're going to set these to -300. Now that's because the logo is originally going to appear 300 pixels off screen and it's going to come in. One of the things I think with any sort of effects, nothing should just appear on screen. Things need to show up, either fade in or appear in. So we're going to set that to begin with as -300. Next we're going to set up the menu options variable. That's how many menu options we have, in this case 5, but you can set it to whatever you like. We're also going to set mShow, and that's going to be an array set to -200, and that's going to be an array in the length of how many options. We're going to do the same for a variable mShowT. Again, this is because we want them to appear on screen. I'm going to show you how to do that later, but for now we're just going to set them up. We're also going to set up MINF, or menu inflate. Again, that's going to be an array the length of menu options, and that's going to be set to 0. And we're going to do the same again, but with MINFT, the target. Again, this is all because we're going to need things to appear and inflate naturally. It's not just going to ping in and out, and I'm going to show you how to do that soon. We're also going to do mAppear, and that's going to set to -1. That's basically so that all the menu options appear one by one. And again, I'll show you what happens with that later. Next, we're going to set up 2 alarms. Alarm 0, we're going to set to 30, that's for the logo appearing. And then alarm 1, we're going to set to 60, and that's for the menu option appearing. You can play around with these values, change them up how you like, but that's what we're going to set it to for now. So if we go into our first alarm, alarm 0, this is for the logo appearing. Now, what we're going to do with this one is simply set the logo target to 0. So you remember we set it to -300, we're going to set it to 0, and that will effectively mean it will be in its right position. Now, that's going to be for our logo appearing. The next thing we need to do is set our menu options to appear. So for the options to appear, the first thing we're going to do, you remember the value, variable mAppear, we're going to +1 on that, and then what we're going to do next is make the mShow target of mAppear equal 0. So you remember we set them set to -200 to begin with. We're going to one by one set them to 0, and that's going to be putting them in their rightful place. Again, we're going to show you how to do that soon. What we're going to need to do is check if mAppear, which menu options we're at, is not equal to how many menu options we have, -1 because we count from 0, and I've used m options counting from 1. So we're going to do, if it's not equal to menu options -1, make it balance out with the arrays, then we're going to reset the alarm and we're going to put it back to 20. Again, you can play around with this and change it, but 20 is what we're going to set it to for now. And we're going to, if all of the options have appeared, set can select true, which means that the player can then start cycling through the option. So with that all set up, we're going to go into the step event, and this is going to be the menu operations itself. So the first thing we're going to do is actually make sure we use lerp for our logo. We're going to use lerp a few times. Lerp is really helpful as a built-in tool for GameMaker in that it gives everything a smooth movement. So rather than just something going from like that to that, it'll smooth and slow down as you get there. I'll show you what I mean. I'll put something on screen for that. But we're going to set logo S, logo T and 0.1. We can set that to anything we like. If we want it to go faster, we set a higher value, slower, lower value, but we're going to stick to 0.1. And then we're also going to do next our overflow checks. So the overflow checks basically make sure that if someone is cycling through the menu options, we don't want them to go off screen. So with M cells starting at 0, we need to make sure that if it is equal to how many menu options we have, so as in we've cycled past, because we're counting from 0, we reset it back to 0. Likewise, if it's equal to -1, then we're going to set it to menu options -1, again because we're counting from 0 from the array and not from 1. That will mean that we can cycle through the menu options and we're not going to go overflow or underflow. Now we're going to work on the inflation and the effects. So when a menu item is selected, we want it to inflate, and then when it's not selected, we want it to deflate. So we're going to use a for loop for this. So for, and we're going to set the variable I, cycle through those menu options. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set for the inflation value. So actually we're going to do the show values and the inflation values, because the show values are when they appear on screen. So M show I, which is what we're cycling through. So we go through all of them because we've created that array. And again, we're going to use the lerp option for M show T, and 0.1. We're also going to do the same for minf. You might be noticing I haven't put a close bracket there. I do go back to put that in. So just pretend there is a close bracket. Please put a close bracket on the end of your coding. I didn't do that. I do go back because I was testing something and it came up with an error, and that was why. So we live and we learn. But we're going to carry on. So now this is the actual cycling through the menu. So if can cell equals true, now remember can select, I'm just going to make that a bit bigger so you can see it. If can select equals true, which remember will happen once all the menu options have appeared, then the next thing we need to do is use, in this case, I've gone for WASD or arrow keys. Again, you can change this to however you want people to navigate through your menu. So I've gone keyboard check pressed, ORD A. So if you're using keyboard commands, you need to use a capital letter. I don't know why, but ORD A or keyboard check pressed left. And if we press left, the menu options will reduce by 1. Likewise, if we use right or D, they will increase by 1. So that means we're cycling through our menu options. Now, that's going to make sure that we're not overflowing as well. So that's not going to be a problem. We can set it up or down however we like. That's going to cycle through these menu options. The next thing we need to do is actually take some kind of action when the option is pressed. So in this case, again, we're selecting if can cell equals true. We could embed that all into one statement, but I'm splitting it up so you can get a better understanding of what we need to do here. But what we need to do now is do keyboard check press, and in menu options, I tend to go for either enter or space. Again, you can do it however you like, but these are the two keyboard commands I typically associate with selecting a menu. The keyboard check press, VK space or VK enter. Now, what we've got here is if you can select a menu option and you've pressed that selection key, what do you do next? So this is where the menu selection comes. First of all, we've got M cell equals 0. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a small key here based on what I've got up there. So 0 would be the play. As you can see, that's the first sub image. 1 is the help screen. 2 equals the sound option. 3 is opening up the website, and 4 is closing the game. So we're going to just put that there in the comments for reference. The sound, as you can see, we do have no variable for sound, so I'm just going to put a global variable in here, global.sound equals false. Now that will basically mean you can, true even, we'll start with the sound on. What we're going to do, I wouldn't recommend putting this in the create event of the actual object. At some point, I would say put that in your game start event or somewhere outside of this, but just for reference, because this is the only object we've got, we're just going to put it in there. But for future, in your game, put it in a game start event somewhere separate to this. So, first things first, if we're going to do the play option, we need to ensure I can't select anything else. So we put cancel to false, and then it will be whatever you want it to be for the next one. So room go to next, sometimes you might want a little fade effect to take place. Whatever you want for your going to the next option, going to the next room, that's going to go in mcell equals 0. Now, we're not going to do the help screen in this section, and I'll show you why in a second. But the next thing we're going to do is do the sound. So if mcell equals 2, we're going to open up a new if statement here. And if that is the case, then if global.sound equals true, then global.sound equals false, else global.sound equals true. There are different ways to do this, but that's just easy to read and easy to understand. So that will effectively turn the sound on or off depending on the state it's in. You can also put sound effects in there if you so wish, or audio stop all when sound is disabled. But for now we're keeping it simple and we're just putting that in there. Then we're going to do mcell 3, and that's going to be visiting the website. You want people to link to your other portfolio or games potentially, so you want to do that. And if that's the case, then we're just going to go with URL openext, and we're just going to go to my website, tidykin.games. You can also do that in your games. If you want to link to my website, I wouldn't mind. And finally, mcell equals 4, and that is very simply closing the game. Again, you might want to add some other effects, so you might want to turn cancel to false in this if statement, but for now, we're just putting game end. Nice and simple. So we've actually got that all set up. The next thing we need to do, so you see that is all encompassed within that if statement, all of our menu options. We need to handle the inflation of the actual menu buttons so they inflate properly. So before we do that, actually, the help screen. If mcell equals 1, haven't done that yet, we're going to set the target for the logo to be 300. We're going to set it to minus 300. Yeah, change it to minus in a second. If not, we're going to set it to 0. That's going to show our help screen, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute. Yeah, it should be minus 300. I went back to double check that. So if we're on the help selection, we're going to set the logo to disappear because in its place, the help screen will come in. That's in the draw event, which I will show you soon. But in the meantime, we're going to have another for loop, and this is going to cycle through our menu options again. Actually, we do already have this for loop, so I'm going to copy and paste it. Now, this is going to set the inflation value of all of the options to 0, and then the one that is selected is going to be set to 0.3. So it's going to have a 30% inflation when it's selected. This is how you know that the menu option that you have is selected. The menu option you're on is what is the inflated one. We're going to set them all to 0, and then if the mselect option is within the parameters, as in if it's more than -1, less than the amount of options, we're going to set the actual mcell, the selected one, to 0.3. So that's going to show in a minute, but what we're going to do now is actually draw that menu. So the first things first, we're going to draw our logo. So drawing our logo is draw sprite ext, and that is our S logo. Now we want that to be in the center of a room, so we're going to do the sub image 0, then we're going to do room width divided by 2. So as we can see, that is our center origin, so that it will appear right in the middle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to want it about 100 pixels down, and this is where the lerp and the logo operation comes into place. We're going to add logo S, so it's going to be 100 plus logo S. So you see logo S, that's where the lerp is. It will naturally come in and out. It starts at -300 and it sets to 0. So originally that'll be off screen, and then it will come back in. X and Y scale and rotation we set to 1, 1 and 0. color as C white and alpha as 1, as you'd expect. Now you can change these around if you want the logo to do a little wibbly wobbly or a bit of up and down. You can change that. You can set that up if you wish. And now finally, the next thing before we actually draw the buttons is the help screen. So this is what I mentioned earlier. If you can select, so if all the options have appeared, I put it as S help. It's not S help, it's S help screen. So I'm just going to have a look in here and figure out where we want that to be. I'm going to create a tile layer. I shouldn't have done that because what we need is an asset layer. The reason we need an asset layer is I can then just get a feel for where on screen it should be. So you see there, 160. I think I ended up going 150. I wanted it a little bit higher, but that you can get a feel for how much room it's going to take up on screen. And there it's going to sit off screen and come in. Now that's just on the asset layer so I can get an idea of what it looks like. I'm not actually going to put it there, so I did delete that, but that's just to give us an idea. Again, that's room width divided by 2. And the Y value for this one, now that's going to be 360. I did that wrong. I should have put that as 150. But then what we do is minus 300 minus logo S. That's 110 C white 1. And we're going to close that off. I do believe I changed that. Yes. Certainly hope I did. I did test it, so I must have changed it at some point. Yes, there we go. I realised 360 is the wrong amount. What we need to do is we need to put that at 1. That's the starting point, and then it's going to minus 300 and then minus the logo showing. So on the logo showing is at 0, it will come back in, and vice versa. So we do fix that. And also you see there, I did put the close brackets in. I mentioned that earlier. I forgot to put close brackets in. Also, it's called S help screen, not S help. Silly me. But yes, 150, and then what we're going to do is minus 300, and sorry, it is plus logo S. So that would basically mean that it will be 300 off screen when you are when you actually have it selected so that you're on M cell 1, which is the help. That logo value changes, so it'll go off screen and the help screen will appear. And that would mean basically it won't always be on screen. It'll only be on screen when you have the help option selected. Next is draw set alpha to 1. Always set it to 1, just always comes in useful. The first thing we're going to do now is draw our first menu option. You see there we've got different sub-images. So this is the play button, so that's sub-image 0. And we want this at an X parameter of 60. You can set it to whatever you like. I would go with 60 just because we're spacing them out based on my resolution. I would say, again, with what I did on the asset layer, place them in just to get a feel for where you think they should go. Again, with the Y value being 380, that's just because of the resolution I've set up. Play around with it, see where they fit more comfortably. But also, it'll be 380 minus M show 0. So M show and M show T, those values reset to 0 so they appear on screen. And this is also for the inflation. So that's for our X and Y scale, 1 plus the menu inflation, which, as you remember, will go 0.3 when it's selected, or it will go back to 0 when it's unselected. So it will always have at least 1, and then it'll inflate to 1.3 times the scale when it's selected. The next thing we're doing is putting the help button in. So the help button is going to be for the first, again, we've got this up to 5 menu options, so we're going through the array and we're going to draw them depending on that. Now the next thing we're going to do is the sound. Now we want some level of indicator on the sound. The sound is set to true, which also equates to 1. What we need to do, if we swap these sub images over, what we can do there is if sound is off, we can do sub image 2, and if sound is on, we can do sub image 3. Now that will show 2 plus global.sound, or whatever variable you use for your sound. So that way it'll alternate depending on whether you've turned the sound on or off. Again, that is the second value in that array, and that is our sound button. And then our third and fourth menu option. So this is that's actually not subimage 3, it's subimage 4. That's for our website. I'm going to move that one along a little bit further, and that is M show 3 and M inflate 3. So this is why we created these arrays, for the inflation and the additional Y position, so they all appear on their own. And finally our exit button, which we're going to put at 580 across, and that's end show 4. Now these X and Y values, they're going to be where they end up sitting on screen. So play around with them till they fit your game. But that should be it. So as you can see now, the logo appears, and then one by one they will come in, and you can see there. So I can turn the sound on or off. I can open the website, so the help comes in naturally, and then disappears. I've turned the sound on or off. The website button, oh, would you look at that? It just so happens to open my website. What a lovely coincidence that is with the new game that I've just made. Check it out. And of course, different options. So when you hit play at the moment on this one, nothing happens because I haven't got anywhere for it to go yet, but we can put that to go to the next room. So that should be it. That's everything in there. A very simple one object menu control that you can just easily integrate into your projects. So that's all I have for you today. Till next time. Bye!